It's a Tuesday night. An ordinary disagreement about a forgotten text message or a tone at dinner suddenly escalates into a fast-paced, serious argument. Inside the bedroom, a familiar dynamic takes over. One partner, let's call her Maya, presses for immediate resolution. She moves towards the problem, asking questions and needing answers. The other partner, Daniel, retreats. He gives short, single-word answers, and eventually he goes completely silent. If you were watching this unfold from the outside, the roles look incredibly clear. Daniel sits perfectly still, appearing completely calm and unreachable. Maya, pacing and talking fast, looks erratic and out of control. Psychologists call this the demand-withdraw pattern. It is one of the most common and most corrosive relationship traps a couple can fall into. Caught in this loop, Maya logically interprets Daniel's absolute lack of response as a weapon. To her, staring at the floor while she begs for a response signals a total abandonment of the relationship. It looks exactly like he simply does not care. But here's the question that flips this entire scene upside down. What if the partner sitting perfectly still on the edge of the bed isn't the calm one in the room? What if the quiet one is actually the one drowning? This silence is the riddle at the center of why these fights feel so impossible. It mimics indifference so perfectly that it's hard to see it for what it actually is. To find the truth, we have to look past Daniel's stillness and into the biology of the body under threat. Our understanding of what happens in the quiet partner's body comes from the University of Washington. For decades, researcher John Gottman ran a facility there that became known as the Love Lab. The core experiment of the Love Lab was straightforward. Couples would discuss an everyday disagreement. But while he talked, the lab attached small sensors to measure their physical biomarkers, tracking their heart rates, how much they sweat, and how their bodies moved. The physical readings alone accounted for 60% of the difference in how satisfied those couples were in their marriages years later. The data in the heart rate and skin conductance predicted their future happiness more accurately than the actual words they spoke. This tracks flooding. When a conversation becomes threatening, the body perceives physical danger. Heart rate spikes past 100 beats a minute. Stress hormones flood the bloodstream, and blood rushes from the brain to the limbs, preparing you to fight or run. In this flooded state, the neurological capacity for empathy and active listening literally goes offline. The brain locks the door to the parts of ourselves that can find the right words, leaving the quiet partner in a state of biological shutdown. When the thinking brain goes offline, the body defaults to 3 specific survival options. The absolute stillness and unresponsiveness of a flooded partner is the ultimate freeze response. Gottman identified this behavior as stonewalling, naming it one of his 4 horsemen of relationship failure. But a person stonewalls because they feel too much all at once. They go silent because the internal volume has become deafening. This maps the demand-withdraw loop. Maya pushes for answers. That pressure strikes Daniel as a threat, causing his node to shrink and freeze. His freeze creates a shockwave of abandonment, triggering Maya's panic. She pushes harder, and he freezes further. A lot of people who shut down tell themselves they are taking the mature route by keeping the peace. But swallowing your feelings, a habit psychologists call self-silencing, leads to more negative conflict over time. The unsaid words harden into resentment that leaks out in a cold shoulder days later. The tragedy of the silent fight is that each partner's desperate survival mechanism acts as gasoline for the other person's deepest fear. They trap each other in a lonely, self-perpetuating cycle. You cannot will your heart rate to stay perfectly calm during a fight. Escaping this loop starts with recognizing the physical symptoms: a clenched jaw, a ringing in your ears, holding your breath, the exact instant your internal alarm trips. The moment you feel those symptoms, the most productive move is to stop. Clearly state that you are overwhelmed, request a specific 20-minute break, and explicitly promise your partner that you will come back. This visual timer and descending bar chart illustrate the biology behind that specific 20-minute rule. The stress neurotransmitters released during flooding have no quick off switch. They have to physically clear out of your bloodstream over time, requiring a minimum of 20 minutes. But if you mentally rehearse your arguments, your stress hormones spike back to maximum. The window only works when you actively soothe your nervous system. Then comes the step that actually breaks the cycle. The partner who called the timeout must be the one who initiates the return. Coming back transforms an agonizing silence from a defensive wall into a temporary, manageable window. Keeping that promise to return addresses your partner's core anxiety, the fear of being left. When Maya trusts that Daniel will actually show back up, her panic subsides, immediately de-escalating her need to push. Repair comes through the discipline of returning. It requires the courage to come back and finish the conversation, even when every biological instinct is telling you to stay gone.